Hello Noddies, welcome back to our channel. Till now we have learned current mirror, current source and cascade structures. But here is the real question. How do analog IC engineers actually design an amplifier from scratch? Do they randomly choose a transistor width and hope it works? Definitely not. Today we will design a common source amplifier like they do in an industry. There are many other methods like GM by ID method, constant current source method, and here we are doing it by calculation. Before watching this video, I highly recommend watching our previous video on current mirror and current sources by clicking the I button on the right top corner. So now let's begin. This is probably the most important step of any analog circuit design. We never start by drawing a circuit. Instead, we first write down the specifications. Here I have choose the supply voltage, the load resistor, the targeted gain, the channel and modulation parameter, the input signal amplitude, the technology node, the overdrive voltage, and the input frequency. Once the specifications are fixed, we list all the equations we need. Instead of deriving them every single time, it's much easier to keep these equations ready before solving the values. Here we will use the gain equation, output resistance, the drain current, transconductance, and transistor sizing equation. Now let's try to design one. This is the circuit of our common source amplifier. Now let's calculate the required transistor dimension. Our targeted gain is 10 dB. First we convert it into linear gain. From the gain equation, we calculate the required transconductance. Here we are assuming the output resistance to be 1 kilo ohm and our load resistor is 1 kilo ohm. So by substituting this value in this equation, we get the GM to be 6.32 millisiemens. In order to achieve the output resistance of 1 kilo ohm, we need the GDS to be around 1000 microsiemens. Using the chosen overdrive voltage, we calculate the drain current and we found our drain current to be 660 microampere. Next, to determine the transistor width, we need the process parameter mu and Cox. Instead of searching for it inside the PDK file, we simply simulate a diode connector transistor, measure the beta effective and divide it by W by L ratio. Now let's try to simulate it in Cadence and verify the beta effective value. Open your Cadence. Here I have set the width to be 120 nano and the length to be 100 nanometer. So here the W by L ratio is 1.2. Check and save, launch, ADL, choose your analysis as DC, save DC operating point, click OK, and now try to run your simulation. So from this we can see our simulation is unsuccessful and we got an error. This is majorly due to the width that we have chose. Since ID is directly proportional to the width, here we need a width to be large such that this 660 microamps is allowed to pass through the transistor. Here 120 nanometer is very small. Now let's increase this width and re-simulate it again. Here I am changing my total width to be 1 micro such that my W by L ratio will become 10. You can save. Now rerun your simulation. Now here we can see there is no error and our simulation is successful. Now go to ADL window, result, print, click DC operating point, click your transistor. Here from this we can see the beta effective is 3.6 milli. Now let's try to find our mu and Cox. So substituting the beta effective value in this formula, we get the mu and Cox to be around 360 micro. By substituting this value in this first equation, we get the W by L to be around 84, and since our L is 100 nanometer, our width is 8.4 micro. Now the next step is to find the VGS by using the V overdrive. But we don't know what is the value of threshold voltage. So in order to find your threshold voltage, set your W by L to be 84 and rerun your simulation. So here I am changing my total width to be 8.4 micro. Click OK, check and save and rerun your simulation. After your simulation is complete, go to result, print, DC operating point and click your transistor. Here we can see our VTH is 233 millivolt. Now substitute this in that formula and find your VGS. So here I have substituted the value of VTH in this formula and I found my VGS to be 433 millivolts. Now this is my bias voltage. Now that we have got all our parameter, now let's try to simulate our common source amplifier and let's verify whether we got our desired gain. So this is our final common source amplifier circuit. Here the voltage source is set to be 1.2 volt and RD is set to be 1 kilo ohm and here the W by L ratio is set to be 84. Now here I am setting my DC voltage to be 433 millivolt, which is our VGS value, and in order to do the AC analysis I am setting my AC magnitude to be 1 volt and here I am setting the input amplitude to be 10 millivolt, which will give us a 20 millivolt peak to peak, and here I am fixing the frequency to be 1 kilohertz. Check and save, launch, ADL. Here first choose your analysis as DC. Click Save DC Operating Point. Click OK. Next choose your analysis as AC. And here give the sweep range from 1 to 10 mega. Click OK. Thirdly, choose your analysis to be trans. Here I am pressing L in my keyboard and labeling my input and output node. Can save. Since the input frequency is 1 kHz, I am giving the stop value to be 10 milli, which is 10 millisecond. Click OK. Now choose your input and output node. Press escape. Run your simulation. Now for the transient response, we could see the red color is the input and green color is the output. For the given input sine wave, we got the amplified wave at the output. On the next step, let's try to plot the gain and phase. So in order to see your gain, go to ADL window, result, direct plot, ACDB20, click your output node and press escape in your keyboard. From this we can see we got around 9.7 dB as gain, but we actually calculated it for 10 dB, right? We are not obtaining our 10 dB here. So now let's check whether we got our desired GM so that we can say whether our calculation is right here. Go to the ADL window, result, print, DC operating point, click your transistor. Here from this we can see our GM is around 5.6 millisiemens, whereas we needed a GM of 6.3 millisiemens. Here the GM is very low. In order to achieve our desired gain, we have to increase the GM. We know that GM is directly proportional to the width. So by increasing the width, we can achieve our desired GM. Although our calculation predicted a transconductance of 6.3 millisiemens, the simulator reports only 5.7 millisiemens, right? Does that mean our equations are wrong? Not really. The equation we used are simplified first order equations. But inside a modern CMOS model, there are more than 40 different device parameters. During our AND calculations, we are using barely 4 or 5 of them. The simulator, however, consider mobility degradation, velocity saturation, channel length modulation, body effect, parasitic capacitance, and many other second order effects. So the practical approach used by analog design engineers is to slightly tune the transistor width. GM is approximately proportional to the width. We can estimate the new width using this formula. Here, after substituting these values, our new width becomes approximately 9.3 micro. Instead of repeatedly solving every equations again, this approach lets us converge to the desired specification much faster. Now let's try to simulate it in Cadence and verify whether we are getting our value. Here I have changed my width to 9.3 micro. Now let's try to simulate it again. Run your simulation from the ADL window, go to result, direct plot, ACDB20 and click your output node and press escape in your keyboard. So from this we can see we have achieved our desired gain of 10 dB. Now let's try to plot the phase. Go to the same ADL window, result, direct plot, AC phase, click your output node and press escape in your keyboard. Here from this we can see there is a 180-degree phase shift, which is one of the most important character of a common source amplifier. So that's how we design our very first common source amplifier Noddies. But if you have noticed something carefully, there is one thing we didn't do properly. We simply applied a DC voltage to bias the gate. In a real analog IC, we almost never bias a transistor like this. Instead, we generate the bias voltage using dedicated biasing circuit, which are much more stable against process, supply and temperature variation. And that's exactly what we will learn in our next video. If you are enjoying this analog IC design series, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And that's all for today's video Noddies. And as always, keep learning, keep simulating and keep building.